look, this is not monetized for a reason. It's for truth reasons. If I start monetizing this, the lives, then I won't be able to give you the truth, the real truth. And that's all I do. That's my passion. That's my calling. And that's me being in service of you and your family and your community. It's as simple as that. I don't need many things in life. But all I ask of you is you smash the likes on your way in and on your way out, just to sort of give me some sort of validation that what I did was of some value to you, and that's it, really. More people coming in, and the reason why I'm sort of delaying things and not getting involved in the chat is because I want to start with the story, and I'm hoping that people will. We're now at 7:30. So normally we do the parish notes 7:15 to 7:30. And at 7:30, I normally start the Theatre of the Mind live. Tonight, it's going to be stories. And that's why it's dark. Didn't you catch that? I mean, I can, if you want, make it very atmospheric. So let's do that. So, as I say, these are copyrighted, and these are my copyright. And this is something that I'm calling the Great British Haunting Sessions. 6 of them, 6 stories that I will bring to you. These are, in my view, true English hauntings, told as they were told to me. And just remember, never answer when you hear your name in the dark. This first story this evening is the tolling of St. Agnes in Norfolk in 1893. The parish register of Wroxham cum Beldray, tucked between the record of a stillborn child and an invoice for 6 pew cushions, there is a note in a shaking hand. It said, "It tolled thrice, though no man pulled." That note was written on the 21st of March 1893 by Reverend Peter Ellis, who vanished that very night. This is what we know. The old church of St. Agnes sat on the marsh edge, past the last cottage, past the last fence post, past where the ground is ground and not water pretending. It hadn't been used for 27 years. The north wall had dropped into the mud. The roof tiles were green. The nave flooded twice a day with salt and reed and dead things. And still, the bell hung. You see, that was the trouble. Because sometimes the bell rang. Not by a ringer, not by a rope. 3 notes only. Always 3. And the fishermen would tell you, quietly, never in the pub, only on the marsh at 4 a.m. with no witnesses, that it only rang when the tide turned wrong. Now you might say, what does that mean, the tide turned wrong? It means the water comes in when it should go out. It means the ditches run backwards. It means you look down and see the reflection of something standing behind you. And you are alone. That's when you hear it. 1, 2, 3. They call it Agnes crying. But Reverend Ellis did not care for that. 3 months in post, full of education and pride, and gin, eager to be respectable again, and absolutely determined not to have his parish muttering about haunted bells like superstitious children. On the night of the 21st, Tuesday, Fog in from the Broads. He's sitting alone in the vicarage kitchen over cold potatoes in milk. Housekeeper's gone home. Lamp turned low. And he hears it. 1, 2, 3. He freezes. Tells himself, oh, it's the wind. Then it happens again. 1, 2, 3. He's on his feet. Chair scrapes back. He snatches up his lantern and his coat, and he is angry, properly angry, at the village, at the marsh, at God, at the fact that he's sweating and his hands are shaking and he can't stop them. He tells himself, oh, it's some boy, it's a prank, I'll catch him. And then he walks out into the marsh. The way to St. Agnes isn't a road anymore. It's a memory. A narrow spine of mud and old willow roots, barely higher than the black water on either side. The reeds hiss. The fog sits low and green like bottled glass held to the eye. His lantern lights no more than his own boots. Twice his heel goes out from under him, and there's this moment where he almost goes face first into that ditch. That ditch that doesn't smell like sea, doesn't smell like river. It smells like meat. He hums Rock of Ages to keep himself steady, whispered, stubborn. And on the first line, he feels warm breath on the back of his neck. Like someone standing right behind him, close enough to kiss him, close enough to bite. He spins round with the lantern, and there's no one there. Just his own boot prints in the mud. And beside them, 2 long, smooth furrows, like a body being dragged by the wrists. He keeps walking. He doesn't see St. Agnes until he is nearly in it. The north wall's gone. You can just walk in through the wound. The pews are still there. Neat little rows, good English oak, and they're standing knee-deep in black water. And that water is gently moving, ebbing back and forth, almost like it's breathing. Something's being dragged up and laid on the altar. You can see the slime trail. And from the ceiling, from the tower, the bell rope hangs. That old hemp rope. But it's wrong, because it's wet. Not wet like rain, wet like something that bleeds slowly. And something is hanging on it. He tells himself, oh, they've hung a sack to frighten me. It's just a cruel village joke. And then he steps forward. Lantern up. There are bare feet. Blue, white, just touching the surface of the water. Toes wrinkled and soft like they've been soaking too long. He lifts the lantern higher. The ankle is split. The skin is swollen and green-white, like cabbage that's gone off. There's weed around the wrist. He opens his mouth. I've no patience for... And the head turns. The head turns, not up, round. just the face rotating, like something seen through warped glass, until he's looking straight into it. The eyes are open. The eyes are filled with tide. And they're moving, looking at him, hunting him. The mouth opens. Water pours out. And the voice that comes is not a voice. It's poured down. Reverend Ellis stumbles back, nearly falls into the pure water, heart absolutely pounding. Who are you? Who did this to you? Are you alive? Who are you? No answer. Just drip, drip, drip from the rope. Reverend Ellis tries to lift the lantern higher to see the face properly, and something grabs his wrist. Out of the water. A hand comes up out of that black water and closes around him. Not attached to an arm, just a hand. White, swollen, nails torn out, green weed caught in the knuckles. It squeezes with this desperate, drowning strength, and he can feel the ragged ends of the nails digging into him. He screams, "In God's name, let go!" And the hand points. Not at him, at a narrow ladder going up into the belfry. He climbs. Because, of course he does. That's the terrible bit. You and I, we're screaming, "Don't, don't, don't!" And he climbs. The ladder's half rotted. The tower air is so cold it hurts to breathe. His wrist is burning where the dead thing touched him. He comes up into the belfry, and the bell of St. Agnes is there. Too big, too heavy for a church that size. Crusted over with salt and marsh rot like moss on old fruit. And then he realizes he's not alone. There are shapes in the corner. 3 of them. At first he thinks, sacks, maybe? Nets, possibly? Then his lantern light moves, and he sees faces. Children. Or they were. 2 girls, 1 boy, barefoot. Thin, white skin, the colour of candle wax left too near the fire. Their lips split, their hair dripping steady, steady, steady onto the boards. And they're stuck to the floor, dried there, just watching him. One girl lifts her head. You can hear her skin tear where it's stuck. "He took us down," she whispers. Ellis swallows. Who did? She twitches her gaze towards the bell, doesn't point, just moves her eyes. The man in the black water. The man with weed in his teeth. He said we were promised. He said Agnes was hungry. We went down with him, but we couldn't get back up. The boy then speaks. Eyes like dead fish. "We asked Father. He said no such thing exists. He said we were not to tell lies. He said it is only the tide, and the tide is the Lord's." Ellis licks his lips. his mouth as dry as ash. Your father, you mean the vicar? The boy lowers his gaze and says, yes. And when was this? Ellis says, barely able to breathe. The second girl, the one with the torn cheek, looks up at him. As she does, the skin of her face opens like wet paper, and you can see water moving underneath where the blood should be. And in this calm, almost polite little voice, she says, 1801. "1801?" Ellis whispers, "My God!" And at that, all three children jerk back, fast, animal, terrified. "Don't," the first girl hisses. "Don't say that. Don't make him look. If he looks, he remembers. And if he remembers, he comes." Ellis is shaking now, properly shaking. "What do you want? What do you want of me?" All three of them slowly raise their hands and point down. Not down into the nave, down into the marsh, under the church. "He's not sleeping," the boy whispers. "She's not sleeping. She turns in the mud. She's pulling. She'll pull the rest. She'll pull the village. He promised her more. He promised her all. He said he'd bring another father. He said he'd give her you." All at once, the children's faces changed, not to anger, to fear. They're looking past him, behind him, and Ellis turns. And something is there that was not there a moment ago. It didn't climb. It didn't walk. It just arrived. The air above the ladder is now full, like smoke filling a lung, growing itself a shape. Tall, wrong in the shoulders, head tilted too far to one side, like it's curious or its neck is broken. And the smell. You know that smell when you upturn a stone in a tidal ditch? That rot, salt, black, ancient stink? Yeah, that. It leans in close. Lantern light touches its face. The face is too long. The mouth is too wide. There's weed hanging from its teeth. There's a tiny silver fish still twitching between those teeth. And where its eyes should be, there are bells. Two little bells, sat deep in the sockets, swaying left, right. And when it opens that mouth, the sound that comes out is not speech. It is the bell. 1, 2, 3. That was the last time anyone ever saw Reverend Peter Ellis. At dawn, 3 eelmen from the village went out of shame more than courage, and found St. Agnes sitting crooked in the fog. The nave was flooded nearly to the tops of the pews. Something had been dragged up onto the altar, and away again. They found Reverend Ellis's lantern at the foot of the belfry ladder, still burning, the glass crusted with salt. They did not climb. They followed his footprints back towards the village. Boot prints deep in the mud, and alongside them, small, bare feet. Many of them walking with him. And behind all of that, a long, smooth drag mark, like a very great weight being pulled through the reeds. The footprints stopped at the ditch. The drag mark went straight into black water and vanished. The parish was quietly merged with the next village. St. Agnes was struck off the books. No vicar appointed in her name again. But on nights when the marsh tide turns wrong, when the water comes in before it's gone out, and the reeds hiss without wind, you can still hear it. Not a peal, not a panicked ringing. 3 patient notes. 1. 2. 3. If you hear it, you do not answer. You do not go. And you do not pray out loud. Because if you do and he looks, he remembers. And if he remembers, he comes. That's the end of story 1 for you. You're very funny in the comments. Bloody Agnes. I think we'll go straight to story 2 because, as I say, there's 6 stories to get in. First story and 6th story are the longest, and then there's kind of 4 in between. And most stories are somewhere between 10 and 14 minutes. That one was probably 18 to 20. Same with 6, but most of them are between 10 and 14 minutes. I did try earlier. So thank you for all your comments. We will go to story 2. Now, as I say, they're all different. And I have interwoven some of personal references. Obviously, the first story was going to be about a church for obvious reasons. And having lived and worked in York, which I love dearly, I've decided that story 2, it's a bit like, I don't know what I've tried to do, a bit like Black Mirror, but so story 2 is a story about York. Now, York is about 60 miles from the sea. And this story is 1 house, 3 tenants, and 1 window that opens itself. And this is story 2 from the Theatre of the Mind, the Great British Haunting Sessions. Now, you decide whether you believe it or not. By the time Mrs. Carrow came to let rooms at number 12 Minster Row, she was a widow twice over and had learned the great secret of survival, that the living are often more dangerous than the dead. Number 12 was a fine old Georgian terrace with a view of York Minster from the upper floors. A quiet house with high ceilings and uneven floors, the kind that murmured at night as if remembering every footstep that had ever crossed it. She kept it immaculate. Whitewash and beeswax, thick curtains, and no nonsense. Her lodgers came and went without incident. A telegraph clerk, a retired colonel, 2 schoolmistresses, until the man arrived in November. He came in the rain, thin and soaked through, a small battered case in hand. "Do you have a room?" he asked softly. "For 1 week only?" He had the palest eyes she had ever seen. Not colourless exactly, but so light they seemed to reflect everything and absorb nothing. His voice was mild, precise, and had the faintest accent she couldn't quite place. Somewhere north of here, perhaps, or foreign altogether. She said yes, of course. A week's rent was a week's rent. He paid in sovereigns, and bizarrely they were cold to the touch. Room 3 was at the top of the stairs, facing the minster. She brought him towels and a jug of hot water. He thanked her, smiled politely, and closed the door. And that would have been that, except for the water. That night, as she passed his door, she saw it, a thin, dark line trickling out from under the threshold. She bent, touched it. It smelled faintly of salt. She knocked. "Sir, is something leaking?" No answer. She pressed her ear to the panel. She thought she heard movement, a slow, shifting sound, like heavy cloth dragging across wood. Then, distinctly, a sigh. When she opened the door, the room was empty. The basin was dry. The window shut. But the floorboards glistened wet as though a wave had just broken across them. She wiped them with a rag and told herself she was imagining things. The next morning, he was sitting by the window, watching the minster through the mist. His clothes were damp, as if he had been caught in the rain again, but it hadn't rained all night. He smiled faintly. "Your city has fine bells, Mrs. Carrow." "They do ring a bit," she said, trying to sound cheerful. "They call the dead," he said, not unkindly. "All bells do, in the end." Then he turned back to the window and she left him to it. That afternoon she noticed damp footprints leading down the landing. Bare feet, long, thin, pale. They trailed from his door to the stairs and stopped halfway down, fading as they went. She cleaned them, obviously, muttering about leaks, condensation, imagination. By the 4th night, she could no longer ignore it. The salt damp was spreading. Wallpaper around his door bubbled. The air smelled of seaweed, though York was 60 miles from the coast. And there were sounds, faint, rhythmic, as though someone were pacing up and down in shallow water. She knocked again. "Sir, you'll ruin my floors if you keep bringing in that wet." No answer. Her hand on the doorknob felt icy, and when she pushed it open, the hinges groaned like something underwater. The room was dim, though the curtains were open. Mist curled inside, spilling from the window as if the fog itself were entering. And in the centre of the floor was this lodger, just standing, motionless. His shirt clung to him, dripping. The floorboards under him were dark with water. He turned his head, slowly, and for the first time she saw his eyes clearly. They weren't pale, after all. They were full of tiny motions like sunlight shifting on a riverbed. "Do you smell it?" he said softly. "Smell what?" "The tide." "There's no tide here," she said. "Not yet," he replied. He reached into his pocket and drew out something small, a strip of parchment, old and cracked, with writing on it in a language she didn't know. He placed it on the windowsill, and the air stirred. "I owe her a grave," he said. She waited. "The water waits, Mrs. Carrow. It always does." Then he smiled again, that same distant politeness. "Would you kindly leave the window open tonight? It's been such a long journey home." He closed the door before Mrs. Carrow could answer. That night, the house didn't sleep. The wallpaper bubbled and burst with wet. The ceiling plaster darkened. In the hall, a slow, steady drip echoed like a heartbeat. The air grew heavy and cold. And then, very faintly, she heard something impossible. The distant crash of waves. In York. On the fifth morning, the lodger was gone. His door was locked from the inside. When she fetched the constable, they broke it open. The room was empty, save for a thick salt film on every single surface and puddles of water that never seemed to dry. The window was open wide, but on the ceiling, just above the bed, were handprints, perfectly clear, pressed outwards from within the plaster. The constable laughed it off, said someone had played a trick. He wrote, "Tenant absconded, cause unknown," in his report. Mrs. Carrow stayed 2 more nights. On the third, the bells of the minster rang without warning, 3 slow tolls, long before dawn, and when she went upstairs to see what the noise was, though she never remembered deciding to go, she found room 3 open. Water filled it halfway to the skirting boards, lapping against the bed frame. Floating there, face down, was a small, battered suitcase. She reached for it, and as she did, a pale hand rose from beneath the water and touched hers gently. The skin was soft, translucent. The nails were rimmed with salt, and the hand held her there for a long moment, as though asking her to wait. When she pulled away, she could feel the wet chill deep in her bones. She left number 12 the next morning, locked the door, and never went back. The house stood empty for 20 years. They said you could still smell the sea on the top floor, and every November, when the fog rolls in thick and the minster bells toll out of time, the window in room 3 opens by itself. And if you stand in the street below, you'll hear water dripping steadily on the cobbles, though the sky will be dry. End of story 2. if you've just switched on to the Theatre of the Mind, slightly different this evening. Just, we're not live on Friday. Many people busy, so I've decided to do some ghost stories from my own fair hand, and the 6 of them were 2 deep, and it looks like lots of people are coming into the body of the Kirk. So I will continue, if you don't mind, with the stories, but I will take some of your comments. Karen Boo says, has anyone thought if the new Mrs. Rev walked in now, we would all shit ourselves? Marvellous. Neil Cunningham said she heard something unbelievable. Starmer told the truth. Brilliant. Amalia, was it that watery pirate from the Caribbean? Stuart says, release an audiobook, Rev. I would so buy that. Yeah, of course. I mean, as I say, I'm bringing skills that I've not ordinarily used to the live, because we've not really had a call for it. So I have said to you, not only a broadcaster, I have written books that haven't been published, maybe in the future. I've been an editor of magazines and had my own newspaper columns, my own weekly newspaper column. And so, I've written stuff. I have written stuff and do write stuff. But, Amalia, open a storytelling channel for sleep aid. Very good idea, Amalia. Yeah, might do that. And the other thing is, I don't know whether my voice lends itself to that, but hang on a second. If I was host, I'd be playing them when you least expect it, and I'd be waiting for the chat's reaction. We'll get to story 3, because I am going to try and keep to the normal timing of the live, which is 90 minutes, give or take, from 7:30 to 9. There is an old saying, cover the mirror when someone dies. But what if the soul was already inside? Now I'm going to give you a love story that outlasted life. This is story 3 from the Theatre of the Mind, the Great British Haunting Sessions. This is The Glass at Havisham Hall, Sussex, 1784. If you go south out of Horsham and you take the old coach road, not the marked one, the one that looks like you're not meant to, you'll eventually find what's left of Havisham Hall. Mind you, nobody calls it that now. Officially, it's just scrub and a ruin and something the council will pull down one of these days. They won't, because of the glass. In 1784, Sir Edward Havisham had a mirror made, bespoke, Venetian work, black oak frame. He ordered it, and this part is written down, we still have it, tempered to her pulse. Quote, her being his new wife, Clara. Now, you need to picture Clara Havisham, 18 years old, dark hair, pale, perfectly polite. The good breeding of a girl whose family has money, but not enough money to say no. And always braced. There are portraits of her. She's never relaxed in a single one. Her shoulders are the shoulders of somebody who's expecting a hand to land there. She marries Sir Edward in June of 1784. In April of 1785, she vanishes. And vanished means bed unslept in, slippers still by the fire, jewels untouched, window unlatched. Yes, but it's a 30-foot drop to stone and there's no disturbance in the ivy outside. No note, no carriage heard on the drive, no servants woken, But more importantly, no body. They dragged the ornamental lake. Nothing but weed and muck and one child's doll nobody recognised. Claire Havisham was gone. Sir Edward sealed her dressing room that same day, and then, this is where the story stops being society gossip and becomes something else. He changed. He ate in that room, and only in that room. In her chair, at her dressing table. He dismissed the maid who used to brush Clara's hair. He dismissed most of the household, and every night after dusk he lit one candle. Only one. And he sat in front of Clara's mirror, and he stared into it. The remaining staff said he spoke to it, sometimes soft, sometimes pleading, sometimes with such fury that the copper pans in the kitchen rattled on their hooks. But the most common thing that they heard, coming through the floorboards, up through the pipes, was this. Clara, Clara, please, look at me. It got worse. He had every other mirror in Havisham Hall smashed. Even his shaving glass, buried the shards in the kitchen garden. And he told the housekeeper, Mrs. Ransom, it interferes. She tires. She won't come clear in it if there's a second light. Nobody knew what he meant. One new footman, not yet wise, poor soul, tried to spy through the keyhole of Clara's dressing room. He went nearly blind in that eye. When he could speak, all he would say was, her but not him. She moved, he didn't. Years pass like this, years. No second wife, no heirs, no guests, just Sir Edward, that room, that mirror. By October of 1789, 5.5 years after Clara vanished, Sir Edward Havisham dies in that chair, sitting up, hands folded, head a little inclined, like he's listening very carefully to someone he loves. Mrs. Ransom finds him. Now, Mrs. Ransom is old school. She knows the rule. When someone dies in a room with a mirror, you cover the mirror so the soul doesn't get trapped. So she takes Clara's favourite velvet shawl and she covers the looking glass. And only after she's done that, after she's done the right and proper thing, does she bow her head and whisper, God receive you, sir. And that's when she hears it. Breathing. Not Sir Edward's. He's gone. Someone else. In the room. Close. Wet breathing. That drowning hitch where you can't clear the water, coming from behind the covered mirror. Mrs. Ransom, who's worked 31 years in service and fears no living man, leaves the room, locks the door and sends for the magistrate. Right. The magistrate arrives. The manservant, Pierce, and the magistrate go up. They have to move the body, do the official bit. And in the process, Pierce's elbow knocks the shawl. The shawl slips. It's only uncovered for a moment, a heartbeat, but 3 people see. And all 3 swear to the following under oath. Number 1, the mirror is not showing the room. It is not showing Sir Edward's dressing table. It is not showing the drawn curtains. It is not showing the cooling corpse in the chair. What they see in the glass is lit green, river green, like water under trees. Number 2. Sir Edward is in the reflection, but not like he is in the chair. In the chair, his face is calm, tilted, almost peaceful. In the glass, his eyes are wide. His mouth is open. He looks terrified. He looks like he's in the middle of begging. And number 3, he is not alone. There is a woman in the reflection standing behind him, one hand on his shoulder. Her hair is hanging in strings, soaked. Her nightgown is plastered to her skin with water. Her skin, they say, is the colour of paper left damp. You can almost see through it. Her mouth is wrong, swollen, split, water running from the corner of it down her throat, steady. And she isn't looking at Mrs. Ransom. She isn't looking at Pierce. She isn't looking out at us at all. She's looking at Sir Edward. And her expression is not rage. It's accusation. Pierce slaps the velvet back over the glass so fast he near takes the frame with it. The magistrate says, right, we're done here, and orders the mirror removed to the cellar until they sort matters. It takes 4 men to lift it. All 4 say the same thing. The black oak frame, which should be dry, polished wood, feels swollen, sodden, like lifting driftwood that's only just washed up. They brick it into the cellar and they seal the door. Sir Edward is declared dead of melancholy of the heart. The cousin inherits and the staffer paid off. And Havisham Hall begins to rot. But it doesn't stop. In 1821, a mason doing repairs on the east foundations hears tapping from behind that bricked door. Not banging, not let me out. Tapping, light, careful. Fingernails on glass. And a woman's voice, faint as breath through a keyhole. Edward? Edward, please? Don't turn away. The mason leaves his tools where they are and never comes back for his wages. In 1863, 2 village boys dare each other to sneak in. One goes up the servants' stair to the first landing and comes back, belting back out white as milk. His mate says, "What did you hear?" And he says, "Crying. Both of them, a gentleman and a lady. He was saying sorry, she weren't." In 1909, the ornamental lake dries back in the summer heat. Reeds, bottles, bones. Small bones. Human. Not Clara's. A doctor from Brighton is quietly paid to say nothing. And still, Havisham Hall stands. No one has unbricked that cellar. No one has touched that mirror. No one will. There is, however, one rule, a Sussex rule, spoken like law, not superstition. You do not go to what's left of Havisham Hall after dark. And you do not knock 3 times on the back foundation wall because if you do, you will hear something knock back. Not from the cellar, lower, from inside the glass. And if you're foolish enough to press your ear to the old brick, you will hear two voices. Sir Edward, still pleading, still terrified. Clara, Clara, please, look at me. And you will hear Clara Havisham, her voice thick with water, patient, unblinking. I am looking, Edward. I never stopped. Some very funny commentary, Romans. Where are we? Okay. I'm probably going to run over a little over. I'm going to shuffle these about. So the next story, the rule was simple. Don't move the wardrobe. And some walls should never be opened. This story is the room behind the wall in Hampstead, 1954. After the war, London didn't become new. It just kept standing. Houses that should have been condemned, boarded up, replastered, rented out. A little paint, a little lie, call it furnished, take cash. Number 27 Welby Street was exactly that. A tired boarding house in Hampstead. 3 stories, brown water, thin walls, rules on the mantel. Rule 1, rents due Friday, cash. Rule 2, no gentlemen callers after 11. Rule 3, and this one was not written down, Rule 3 is do not, under any circumstances, move the wardrobe in room 7. In January 1954, a journalist named Michael Weaver moved into room 7. 31. Smart, but not yet important. 3 shirts, 2 ties, a typewriter, and a desperate need to get his name in print. He's working on a story about post-war housing fraud. You know, landlords carving houses into illegal box rooms, furnished so they can overcharge, moving people on by force, all the things everyone knows and nobody writes. He thinks, if I nail this, I get taken seriously. Mrs. Lang, the landlady, likes him. He's polite, pays on time, doesn't complain about the bomb crack in the stairwell plaster. She gives him room 7. And she tells him, with real force in her voice, the wardrobe stays where it is. He thinks, fine, whatever. You're paying 35 shillings. You put up with a funny wardrobe. The first night, about midnight, he's smoking by the sash window, obviously, typing slow. The house is making old house noises, pipes ticking. Someone down on the first floor coughing like a drain, and then 3 knocks. Not at his door, behind him, very polite. He turns. The wardrobe's against the far wall by the bed. Nothing moves. He thinks, old pipes, don't be dramatic, and goes to bed. At 2:17 in the morning, he wakes up to breathing. Not his. behind the wardrobe. Slow, low, wet, like someone whose throat is full of glass. He sits up in bed and just listens. The breathing stops. So he does what men do when they're absolutely terrified and pretending not to be. He gets angry at it. He throws his legs out of bed, crosses the floor, presses his palm against the side of the wardrobe and goes, "Right, what is this then?" And the wood vibrates. And then, right under his hand, a whisper comes through the wall behind it. Not through the door, through the wall. "Please." Michael's mouth goes bone dry. "Hello? Who's there?" And the voice, so faint he has to lean in, ear to splintered wood, says, "Please, let me out." He staggers back so hard he smacks into the wash basin. The enamel rings like a bell. His heart's going like a drum. His brain is trying to make sense of it all. Someone is in the wall. Someone is in the bloody wall. He says, voice all over the place, "Who's there? Who's there? Is someone trapped? Who's there?" Silence. He stands there half the night, shaking, waiting to hear it again. Nothing. In the morning, he goes straight to Mrs. Lang. Now, listen to this because it matters. He doesn't say, "Your house is haunted." He doesn't say, "I heard a ghost." He says calmly, like a sane adult, "There's something behind the wardrobe in 7. Behind the wall. Some kind of cavity. I was thinking somebody might be in there." Her face changes. The landlady, her mask, polite, brisk, "Don't argue with me," drops. "Did you move it?" She snaps. No, you told me not to." "Good," she says. "Too fast." "Good. Don't." "Mrs. Lang," he said, "I think there's somebody walled in." And just for a heartbeat, she looks at him and he sees raw fear. Then she recovers. "Don't be ridiculous. Eat your breakfast." See, that was the moment he should have let it go. But he didn't. Because he's a journalist. Because he wants a headline. Because he thinks this is his ticket out of the human interest filler column. Early afternoon. The house is empty and Mrs. Lang is out. The coughing man in room 2 has gone to the surgery. The hall of the house is quiet. So Michael goes upstairs to 7, closes the door behind him, and drags the wardrobe. Now, this is not a little thing from IKEA. This is an oak coffin on legs. It gouges the floorboards. It makes his arms shake. But, inch by inch, he forces it out from the wall. And behind it, there's a door. Or the shape of one. Narrow, bricked up, plastered over. You can see where it was. You can see where the knob used to be. And in the centre of that plaster, about the height of a seated person's head, there is a dark stain. Not damp, brown, old. Michael stares, heart pounding, and then, because he is an idiot, he knocks. 3 times. And from behind the plaster, behind the brick, from that narrow, hidden space in the wall, something knocks back. 3 times. Perfect rhythm. Soft. Polite. Exactly like his. Michael falls back onto the bed, eyes stinging. Jesus Christ, he whispers. Jesus H. Christ alive. And the voice, that same whisper, now right at the plaster, rushes out like it's been waiting. Please, please, please let me out. Please, please, I'll be good. I'll be good this time. I won't make any sound. Please. Michael swallows. What's your name? There's a tiny pause. Then, Annie? How long have you been there, Annie? No answer. How did you get in there? And now it comes out of her in a single panicked spill, like she's trying to say everything before someone hears. She put me in the chair and told me to be sorry. She said I had to be sorry. She said I wasn't fit to be seen. She said I made men look. I didn't want them to look. I didn't want them to. I said I was sorry, and she said not yet. And then she put the bricks up, and I couldn't. Her voice then broke into these horrible, tiny, shaking sobs. Michael feels something tear inside of his chest. He whispers, "Who put you in there?" Silence. "Annie, who put you there?" And then, in the smallest, most terrified breath, the landlady. Now, he's cold in a way he's never been cold, because he is alone in that house. And he's starting to understand that rule 3 wasn't superstition, it was containment. So he does what he thinks is the right thing, the noble thing, the thing that will get him a headline and save a life. He pulls out a little penknife. "I'm going to make a hole," he whispers. Instantly, Annie's voice goes tight with terror. No. She'll hear. But he's already scraping the plaster. The first scrape is dry, papery. The second splits the surface. Underneath is old brick. He works, sweating, shaking. He tells her, hold on, I'm nearly there." And Annie's breathing on the other side is going fast, like a trapped animal. "Please be quick, please." He chips. Plaster flakes fall like dead skin onto the floorboards. The smell starts coming through. Not damp. Rot. Old rot. Hot rot. Something kept shut too long. "Nearly there," he mutters, half gagging. His blade breaks through into open space. Air hisses out, stale and wet. He widens the hole with his fingers until it's big enough for an eye. And he leans in. This part, the part where Michael Weaver, 31, grown man, journalist, rational, never religious, never fanciful, this is where he starts screaming like something's eating him alive. Because now he can see. Behind that plaster is a cavity, maybe 3 feet deep, floor to ceiling, bricked up. No windows, no light. The back wall was once whitewashed. It's yellow now, and it's covered in words. clawed over and over and over again in frantic loops. Sorry, 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 sorry. There's a wooden chair in the middle of that space, facing the bricked doorway. No cushion, no blanket, just wood worn nearly black, where hands have clutched and rubbed and clutched and rubbed and clutched and rubbed. And someone is still in the chair. Annie. Or what's left of Annie. There's rope around her wrists, but it's rotted to threads. Her head is slumped forward, and then, as Michael watches, and this is why he screams, the head lifts. The face turns towards the hole. Those eyes, they're still there. Sunk deep, filmed over, dark and wet like something in a jar, skin yellowed, pulled tight over bone, lips split and drawn back to show teeth worn nearly flat, fingertips splintered where she's clawed and clawed and clawed at brick until her nails nearly tore off. And then she moves. She moves. Her mouth opens, and in this tiny, ruined hiss of air, she says, "Please." Michael goes backwards so hard he hits the floor. He's shaking uncontrollably now. His hands won't obey him. And then something happens that would not be possible. The wardrobe, the heavy wardrobe, the wardrobe he dragged out of the way, it moves. On its own. Slow. Steady. Deliberate. Like a coffin lid sliding back into place. It scrapes across the floorboards and slams itself tight against the wall. Hides the bricked doorway, hides the stain, hides the hole he's just made. Boom! Done. Michael is frozen to the floor, heart ricocheting around his ribs, staring. From behind the wardrobe, muffled now, like from under blankets, comes one last whisper. Sorry. And then silence. That's when the door opens. No knock. Mrs. Lang standing there. She takes one look at the wardrobe, not quite where it was, one look at Michael on the floor, one look at the wall, and she goes white. Not angry white, terrified white. Oh, you foolish man! Then she shuts the door behind her, turns the key, and hisses with her whole body shaking. You listen to me. You did not hear anything. You did not see anything. You will pack. You will leave. You will not go to the police. You will not have them open my walls. You will not. Michael stares at her. He can barely form words. You walled a child in a cupboard. I didn't, she says. And it's almost a sob. It was before I came. I just keep it closed. In every house, she says, in every house in this city, there's something like this. A girl, a boy, a wife, a brother, a room no one opens. You think the war blew it all clean? You think the bombs killed the bad bits? You sweet, stupid man. Her voice cracks. I keep it quiet, she said. That's all. I keep it quiet so the others can sleep. I keep it quiet so she stays where she is. I keep it quiet so they don't rattle the stairs. She swallows. And you opened it. She drags, with both hands, with her shoulder braced, that wardrobe back flush to the wall, palms flat, eyes shut, whispering under her breath. Michael realizes she's not praying. She's apologizing. He leaves inside the hour. He doesn't finish his housing piece. He doesn't tell his editor. He never again sleeps in a room with a closed wardrobe. Number 27, Welby Street, still stands, by the way. Different paint, different landlord, different name. They call room 7 Flatlet C now. But there's still a wardrobe on the back wall. And you'll still hear, in the viewing, in the nicest possible voice. Now, look, just one thing. Don't move that. Where are we? So, as I promised a little earlier, I'm going to read you story 6. You see, people think witch stories are about curses. They're not. They're about promises. And in story 6, a historian goes looking for proof and finds it. So what is story 6? Ashes on the Green, Wiltshire, 1648 and now. This is story 6 of the Great British Haunting Sessions from the Theatre of the Mind. I'm sure you're very well aware that every village has a place you don't stand after dark. In Colling, Wiltshire, it's the centre of the green. Looks harmless. Little slopes of grass by the lynch gate, leaning oak, low stone wall with nettles in it. But right in the middle, the grass never grows right. In summer, it stays thin. In winter, it goes grey first. In drought, it turns the colour of candle ash. They dance round it on May Day, not over it. And every Halloween, the vicar blesses it. If you ask why, proper, not as a joke, not with your phone out, they'll tell you. That's where they burned her. Her name was Agnes Ward, 1648. And there's only one scrap of paper left from then, and it says, in that old cracked ink, that Agnes Ward was to be corrected in the sight of ye parish, to be cleared of the foulness with fire, and so to God. So, corrected in the sight of ye parish means they burned her alive on the green. Now, listen, Agnes Ward was not some cackling hag out of a pamphlet. She was about 38, widow, kept to herself, laid hands on fevers and cooled them, stopped nosebleeds by simply looking at you, found lost things in ditches like a water diviner, and she did all of that in a hungry year. Men get frightened of women who can do things when it's a hungry year. fell from a roof and shattered his leg. His wife said she felt a presence push him. A baby died quiet in its cradle, no rash, no cough. The mother said she heard whispering under the floorboards. A married man was found in a hedge with his trousers down and couldn't explain how he got there. Like most married men. You know how it goes. Whispers start, scripture gets bent. Suffer ye not, they said. Then someone left a dead hen on Agnes Ward's doorstep with the head twisted backwards. 3 days later, they pulled her out of her cottage before sunrise, tied her to the old ash post on the green, and told themselves they were doing God's work. The parish clerk read verses badly, shaking. He'd known her all of his life. They piled brush and broken fencing around her waist and legs. Someone said, no, that's cruel. Someone else said, we're not doing this twice. When the fire caught, she didn't scream. Not at first. She just looked at them. And this part no one argues about. They expected her to beg, to curse, to wail. She didn't. She looked at each man one at a time. Men whose bones she'd set, babies she'd delivered, fevers she'd sat through, and she said, very calmly, I'll have you. That's all. I'll have you. One of them spat in her face. See, that detail's always in the telling. People remember who spit. Then the rags caught and the heat climbed, and that's when she started screaming. Only this is where it goes wrong. The scream went on too long. Far too long for a single throat. People said it sounded more like more than one voice. Layered. First hers, then something under hers, then something under that, like all the held-in voices of the parish had joined. The men holding the ropes let go. Fire does what fire does. When it was done, and the flames dropped and the smoke thinned, there were ashes left on the green. Not a pile, not scattered, a shape. Flat on the ground, arms slightly out, palms up, head turned towards the church. They left it there overnight because no one dared sweep it. It rained that night, hard. And in the morning, that ash shape was still there. It never fully went. And that's why, they'll tell you, the grass never grows right at the centre of the green. Oh, you can scoff, people do. Which brings us to 2021. October 30th, 2021. The day before Halloween. Yeah, it's recent. A postgraduate from London went down to Colling. His name, Daniel Birch. Aged 26. Topic, rural folk memory of state violence in the English Civil War. Translation, he's doing a dissertation on witch burnings and thinks Colling is picturesque. So he gets permission to observe which he interprets as pitch a tent on the actual bloody spot. The parish council says politely, don't camp on the green. He smiles that clever smile a 26-year-old would smile, who thinks they know, and just does it anyway. So he set up 4 motion cameras, one on the lich gate, one on the church wall, one wide angle on the green, and one pointing straight down at the pale patch where the grass won't take. He's got backup batteries, a thermos, fingerless gloves, the lot. All the gear, no idea. He's narrating into his phone in that YouTube voice. We're here on the so-called Witch's Green. We're going to prove there's nothing supernatural, only lingering village hysteria. Locals walk by, shake their head at him. Nobody stops him. Nobody ever stops them. You see, that's part of it. At 2:13 in the morning, all 4 cameras register something. Camera 1, Lichgate, goes a bit smeary. Static across the lower frame like a heat shimmer. Camera 2, on the church wall, spikes audio. The scream on that audio makes grown men feel sick when they hear it back. This is on record. It's not a little, it's tearing, layered, too many throats at once, and under it, clear. You'll burn with me, you'll burn. Over and over and over. 11 seconds. Camera 3, wide on the green, shows Daniel in his little camping chair. The second the audio spike hits, he stands, chair goes over, he looks straight out into the dark, not scared, not running, recognizing. He says, who's there? Then, and this is debated, his mouth shapes the word mum. People argue about that because his mum swears she's never set foot in Wiltshire. But if you watch his face in that frame, it's the face you make when you see someone who should not be there, but is. And then camera 3 whites out. Not cuts, not glitches, whites out. Like someone just put a furnace in front of the lens. The last frame before it dies is orange. Fire orange. Camera 4, the one pointed straight down at the ash patch, tilts. Nobody touches it. It just tilts. Like the tripod legs are sinking or warping in heat. For half a second you get a perfect shot of the ground and you can see it. The grass that wouldn't grow, right? It's moving. Not in wind, not trampled, curling in on itself, blackening from the tips inwards, like flame you can't see is running through it. Then, camera 4 dies. At 2:16 a.m., 3 houses on the lane report smelling smoke. At 2:19, someone sees light flickering through the wall of Daniel's tent. At 2:22, Mr. and Mrs. Pelham from opposite finally say, right, enough, we're going out and telling that bloody lad to pack it in. They cross the lane. They open his tent. And here's what they find. The tent is fine. It's not burned. It's not torn. Still zipped. Inside, on top of the sleeping bag, in the centre of the ground sheet, is a pile of fine grey ash. Still warm. Shaped like a person lying flat on their back, elbows in, palms up, head turned towards the church. Exactly. exactly like the ash shape they say was left on the green in 1648. Daniel Birch is gone. No body, no footprints leaving the tent, no drag marks. Gone. The police come. Forensics in white suits, blue tape around the green. You remember that maybe we were on the telly for 3 days, then very suddenly, not. The official phrases used were combustion event and unexplained heat source and ongoing missing person inquiry. After a month, he was missing. After a year, presumed dead. After that, people stopped using the present tense at all. But something changed. The pale patch on the green used to be the size of a dinner plate. After Daniel, it's the size of a grave. Now, today, every Halloween, the vicar still blesses the ground. He sprinkles a bit of water. He says his words. He does not, listen to me, he does not speak her name out loud. Locals do not cross the centre of the green after dark. They will walk along the long way round with the dog, and children dare each other from the wall, not from the grass. And here's the bit you need to hear, because if you ever get drunk in Colling, and there's every chance, and think you're clever, this is where you live or you don't. If you go to that patch, the pale patch after midnight, and you shouldn't, but if you do, and you kneel, and you press your fingertips to the soil, it's warm, even in January. Not sun warmed, heat from underneath. And if you lean in, stupid brave, a mouth's length from the ground, and you whisper, Agnes Ward, the air will taste of smoke. Not cigarette, not bonfire, old smoke. Cloth, hair, fat, and you will hear it. Not the scream, not yet. You'll hear the inhale, the breath that you take right before you scream, just holding there, waiting. Because here's the real curse, and it isn't fire, and it isn't brimstone, and it isn't Satan, and it isn't witches. It's a promise. I'll have you, she said. Not, I'll have you tonight. Not, I'll have you tomorrow. Just, I'll have you. She didn't say when. I hope so. Somebody says, Adrian, there's someone behind you. It's probably the new Mrs. Allen bringing me a new cup of hibiscus, because I've hang on a second. So we only have time tonight for 5. Oi, oi, oi. I am going to chop tonight's live up and put these stories up on Halloween for everybody to enjoy. Thank you to everyone. Please smash the likes if you're still here. It really does help the algorithm and the channel and YouTube thinking, oh, it's quite popular. Thank you to everyone that's supported the channel this evening. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all, your indulgence. Be safe, be well. Halloween comes on Friday. Maybe you'll get a knock at the door. It'll be trick or treat, not the Rozzers, obviously. Get some sweets in for the kids. If you've enjoyed it, wonderful. Next live, Sunday, 7:15, Parish Notes, 7:30. I am working on things in the background. I'm not going to say anything until they're ready and up on the channel. But the Theatre of the Mind, it's not a show, it's a mission. And the mission? To decode life and everything within it. Be well. See you Sunday. I hope you've enjoyed tonight.